Good afternoon. Thank you all for joining us for today's State of the Rising update. For some opening remarks, I'll turn it over to the President of Daytona International Speedway, Joie Chitwood.
Thank you, Andrew. I have a number of topics to cover today, so we'll get started. Wanted to really provide everyone an update on our safer barrier and our improvements that we've made since February. So I want to talk about a number of locations. We made a statement in March as to the things that we would get accomplished by this event, so I want to walk through those in detail. We actually paved a lot more area than we thought we were able to in our first analysis. We actually added over 200,000 square feet of additional asphalt in 4 different locations on the property inside of Turn 1. So that's the grass area inside Turn 1 at the exit of the road course. We also paved an additional area at the exit of Turn 4 next to the skid pad as you entry to pit lane. We also paved 2 areas on the pit in and pit out of the ball field, currently where there's a storm drain. So that's over 200,000 square foot of additional asphalt. We realigned the wall in Turn 1 at the exit of the road course, and with that realignment of the wall, we also added additional safer barrier to it. We installed safer barrier at the exit of pit road. We installed safer barrier at the exit of Turn 4 at pit entrance, and we also installed it along the entire outside backstretch wall. Some additional things that we were able to accomplish: we put in the concrete footers inside Turns 1 and 2. We will come back after this event and install the safer barrier that would go on top of the concrete footers inside Turns 1 and 2. We'll also then, after this event, go back in and put concrete footers in Turns 3 and 4 and install safer barrier in 3 and 4. Following those additional things after this event, we will have covered the property in safer barrier. We're able to cancel a number of track activity days and really get after it from a construction schedule. And actually, we're pleased that we completed the entire backstretch wall and added the additional paving from our first commitment after the event. So it relates to Daytona Rising. Wanted to share an update on where we are for this event and what's happening. As most of you can see, we have demolished the old Sprint Tower and the structure that housed the suites and the race control and the press box. And unfortunately, for those who enjoy the press box this event, you'll have to enjoy the race from the media center. January, we'll have the new press box available. As part of that, we've had to build a temporary race control, a temporary radio booth, and a temporary TV booth. That is actually to the left of the tower. You can see 3 wooden structures with windows there. So those are all temporary for this event, as well as the unfinished grandstand next to that area. That's where the spotters will be for this weekend's event. We have a little over 52,000 seats available for this weekend. We have a little over 40,000 on the Turn 1 side, a little over 10,000 on the Turn 4 side. All those seats are new, and all the new amenities are open that go with them, whether it's escalators, elevators, neighborhoods, concourses, the Wi-Fi enabled neighborhoods, all the new chairs, chairbacks, all those elements are brand new. So there are no old seats that exist at the Daytona International Speedway anymore. From a schedule perspective, we've got about 7 months to go. We remain on schedule and on budget to hit our official turn back over to the Speedway, which is mid-January. So I feel very comfortable that we have a good plan in place to open up the property in January. I want to share a couple things about some partnerships and some technology that we have been working on. One of the things that we talk about here is how do we have fans be connected to our event? And we have a product that we've been using called Fan Vision, which is a rental product that fans can use to actually get live video from the event, in-car video, in-car audio, timing and scoring data. It's a platform that you rent. It's got its own screen to it, headset, all those elements. Starting in 2016, we're going to have a new Fan Vision puck. This will be attached to your phone and will allow your phone to be turned into your video screen, your scanner, and your video monitor for in-car. This will not tax our DAS system or our Wi-Fi. All 101,000 fans could use this product and have no connectivity issues enjoying all the products that we push out from this event. It also has over a 4-hour battery cycle. So from a connectivity perspective and a battery perspective, this will turn your phone into your new connectivity device that will give you audio, video, and timing and scoring data. We will actually start to use these in February of next year. It is an exclusive product to ISC for next year's events. So this is the future. And the fact that we're able to do this and solve connectivity and battery and not have to tax our Wi-Fi or DAS, I think is a huge step forward in bringing content to the phones that our fans use when they attend this event. In terms of a partnership perspective, we made some great announcements this past week. We added Fifth Third as our official bank, joining us to offer some branding and fan engagement opportunities on property. And as well, we announced Chevrolet as our third injector partner. Very excited to bring them on board. And so now our injector partners stand at Toyota, Florida Hospital, and Chevrolet. So one other element I'd like to talk about, the Daytona 500 for next year. With all of these renewals of partnerships, new technology, new elements, we are up 18% on our renewals in terms of our completion of renewals and on sale date. And I think that is the best we've seen since our 50th anniversary in 2008. And so we're very excited about the status of the project, our fans enjoying it, and it's translating at the box office as we get renewed for next year. Last thing I want to talk about today is the flag exchange program. We initiated that program earlier this week in which fans could voluntarily exchange a flag at the Turn 1 canopy when they check in from their camping perspective. As of right now, I'm not aware that we've had any flags turned in. It is a voluntary program for our fans to do. So far I'm pleased, though, with the response. As I drove around the property, I noticed a lot more American flags being flown. And so I appreciate our fans celebrating our nation's birthday by celebrating the American flag this weekend. With that, I'll turn it back to Andrew and happy to take any questions.
We'll open up for questions. Mike, we'll start with George in the back, and then we'll work up our way up to Bob and Nate.
Yeah, Joey, George Diaz, Orlando Sentinel. Can you talk about, in terms of logistics, were the spots with the safer barriers that you needed to address, were those easily identifiable, and what was the most challenging part of the project to get things right?
So after the events, we worked with NASCAR on an analysis of the property to identify the locations that we needed to improve. And the most significant work that we did was the Turn 1 area. We paved over 177,000 square feet in the Turn 1 area and actually had to realign a concrete wall. So in essence, build a new concrete wall and add safer barrier to it. So of all of the improvements that we made, that was the most substantial. The challenge for us was actually canceling track days and other rentals and things on property so that we could actually construct on the property. So knowing our deadlines, what we needed to accomplish, what we had to accomplish for this event, we made sure that we got all the things done, and really we had to clear track days for that significant work.
Let's go to Bob.
Bob Hockers, ESPN. Can you give us any sort of how much did it cost to do all these improvements as far as the safety initiatives, and/or tell us what projects you possibly had to delay in order to get to spend the money on the safer barriers?
We don't release specific financials, Bob, but what we've announced is that this fits in the capital guidance that we've issued for ISC for the year. So all the improvements that we've made here or where we're going to make anywhere else fit in the guidance that we gave for ISC for this fiscal year.
Go to Nate, and then we'll come back up here.
Nate Ryan, NBC Sports. Two questions. First one's quick, Joey. How much will that Fan Vision on your smartphone technology cost?
We've not released the pricing yet on this, but it's going to be very comparable to the current pricing of the Fan Vision opportunity today.
And secondly, with all the asphalt you've laid down, there's still some grass that's adjacent to the racing surface. Is your eventual plan to pave all the grass that's adjacent to the racing surface?
Nate, what I would say is we're not going to stop analyzing the areas and what makes the most sense. The next things in terms of priority are the safer barriers inside 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So we want to get those done next. We're going to continue to work with NASCAR and their experts on what's the next improvements we can make here at Daytona. But based on the last couple of years, what we saw this year, we're not going to stop figuring out ways to improve the property, whether it's motorcycle racing, stock car racing, sports car racing. We want to make sure we've got a safe property for all the competitors.
We're going to go to Christian, and then we'll go back right here to NASCAR.com.
Christian Brewery, WFTV, Orlando. Joey, we hear neighborhood. Could you explain what that will actually entail for some of the fans seeing this for the first time?
In terms of the new stadium, the neighborhoods that go with it, so there are 11 football field-sized neighborhoods in the new Daytona Rising project. Each of those neighborhoods has refreshment areas, restrooms, social zones, but more importantly, that's where you would be connected to Wi-Fi. So the opportunity to update, check your status, post photos, all those elements. We've not found a technology yet that can actually Wi-Fi a 9/10 of a mile long grandstand. I'm not sure that's out there yet, but we did come up with a plan to create these social neighborhoods and make sure our fans have that opportunity to connect, take a break, relax, but really enjoy the social aspects of the Daytona International Speedway.
Jonathan Merriman, NASCAR.com. Can you talk a little bit about how all of this plays in together with the safer barriers, with the new asphalt, with the new Fan Vision and the Daytona Rising project, how all that culminates together. This place was, cutting edge in 1959 when it was, opened. And now you guys get set to open all this stuff next year and kind of brings you back into the forefront somewhat. Can you just talk about the excitement that brings and how all this stuff plays in together with the safety and the fan aspect?
Well, we talk about what it took to build this property in 1958, and yes, it takes concrete and steel and wood and all those things, but at the end of the day, it's about determination, it's about vision, and with the France family's leadership, we're able to now really take the next step in moving forward and reimagining this icon. So whether it's inside the fences or outside the fences, we want to make sure that Daytona is raising the bar for the industry. When people show up here during February and Speed Weeks, it is the biggest event on the calendar. More Fortune 500 companies are partners here, the best TV rating, the biggest build-up, and so we've got to make sure that we can keep this brand at that level. So whether it's the fan experience out there, which is a $400 million investment in the property, or whether it's the competitive elements in terms of safety and technology on the inside, we want to make sure Daytona is always at the forefront. Hopefully that's what our fans are seeing, our sponsors are seeing, and more importantly, the competitors are seeing as well. I think that's very important to this company.
Go in the back.
What influenced your decision to install the safer barriers when we already have soft walls, and why do you think this could save lives?
I'm not sure I understand the question. The connotation of a soft wall is a safer barrier, and so safer barrier actually was first installed here probably a decade ago. And so following the events of this past February with Kyle and the accident he had, we did an analysis of the property with NASCAR and identified a number of locations that we could improve. And so those are the areas that we talked about today that we made these improvements. And any opportunity to make this property more safe for our competitors is important to us, which is why we undertook the initiative. We want to make sure that we're leading the charge for our industry, for our company, and that's why we made these improvements for this year. But the safer barrier technology is really the technology that all the tracks are using to cover their concrete walls.
Go back to Bob, and then we'll come over here.
Can you describe what the reason is for paving over grass, and maybe are there any challenges to just paving everywhere? And then also, can you tell us why in the analysis they said that you needed safer barrier everywhere, while at some other tracks that we see, they seem to think that maybe tire barrier is better?
So from a paving perspective, that was part of an element, I think, in the analysis of the incident from February in terms of the ability to slow down or turn. The feeling in that area due to the high-speed nature and where that accident occurred, that asphalt will be a better solution for the drivers and the ability to control the incident. That was the factor behind paving there. I'm sorry, the second question, Bob? Oh, inside the turns. So as it relates to Daytona, in terms of being a high-speed property and with all the cars traveling close together, the feeling is that we wanted to safer everywhere. I think that NASCAR's got some experts out there. We're going to continue to work with them on what that means for inside the turns at other venues. I think it's a balancing act with smaller tracks, speeds, the type of racing that they are. But with restrictor plate racing here and the way that they're grouped together, the feeling is that we would put safer barrier inside all of the turns here.
And does the grass in the tri-oval, is there a reason for it beyond aesthetics?
Well, the other element that anyone would have to do if you're going to pave areas is work with your county or local regulations as it relates to a runoff, meaning typically when you develop new properties, you have to build retention ponds. So when you pave something, you also have to deal with water runoff. So that's an element that anyone would have to consider as they look at removing grass and putting in asphalt.
And over here.
Yeah, Steve Hummer with the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. On the flag issue, do you anticipate this weekend seeing fewer, or do you worry about a backlash and actually having more flags out there? And part two of that of the question, do you worry about alienating a percentage of your fan base, and to what percentage do you think this is an issue?
Obviously, this is a very sensitive issue. There's political connotations, and fans have opinions about this. And so for us, thinking about this weekend and what was important, I think it's appropriate for this country to celebrate the American flag on its birthday. And so for us, it seemed like the right thing to do. And from that perspective, I don't think that's divisive at all. I think that's trying to provide an environment that's inclusive. I think moving forward, though, we need to think about it. We have to be thoughtful about what's next, what is the process, and how do we get to a place where these events can be open, inclusive, and symbols are not the things that we talk about, but we talk about racing on the track. So obviously it is, it's in the media now. I think we took the appropriate steps to provide the right environment this race weekend. I think our fans are being extremely respectful, and I think we're going to have a great weekend. And the minute we get the cars on the racetrack, I think that we can look forward, and that's the key, looking forward. I think the voluntary exchange program was the way to look forward and giving fans the choice and asking them to celebrate the right flag this weekend.
We'll go to Dwight.
Dwight Drum, racestake.com. Joey, could you talk a little bit about not knowing when you came here, the Daytona Rising and having it, happen, on your tenure, but talk a little bit about the challenges and the joys of all the way up to the fan vision so far.
I guess, Dwight, the list I would put together starts with potholes and jet dryers and rainouts, and I think there was a hurricane or tornado warning in there at some point. So I'm not sure if it's maybe me, but I would say this. I think we've got the best team in Daytona of anybody out there. And so when you think about the challenges we've had, and look, we don't practice setting the track on fire. We've never blown up a jet dryer just to see how to respond. The team really is prepared for anything here. So I am proud of the fact that the France family would trust us with a massive investment to rebuild Daytona Rising, but also that this team is right there front and center when called upon to deal with all sorts of circumstances that occur when we go racing. So I think we have to enjoy some of those moments, some of the successes, and also look back on some of the challenges and say that this team stepped up for the challenge and did a great job.
Mark Long right there, and then we'll go back to Bob.
Mark Long with AP. Joey, two questions. First, can you give us a number of linear feet of safer barrier that you installed, and how many linear feet to go?
You know what, Mark, I have that. I don't have it with me, so I want to make sure I give you the right number, so I'll pull that and we can chat after this.
Okay, and then secondly, back to the Confederate flag. In your mind, from your viewpoint, what are the challenges that you would face if you decided to ban the Confederate flag altogether? Is it an enforcement? Is it taking on the First Amendment, combination of both?
I think what happens in this situation is you have people on both sides who feel very strongly about something, and they're very passionate about it, and you can't argue with someone's passion or their opinion. And I think that creates something that ends up on the front page of the newspaper or as the headline in the news. And so if we're going to enter that discussion and we're going to try and provide a process to come up with something, you got to be thoughtful. I think we got to really think through it. And we got to be fair to both sides and make sure that whatever we come up with can work. Whether it's enforcement, whether it's communication, whether it's treating people fairly. And in something like this, the more thoughtful we can be, understanding, taking the time to really vet through, I think that's going to be the important thing moving forward. I think the voluntary exchange program for us right now was appropriate with the limited window that we had coming into this event weekend. And more importantly, I think it's important to trust our fans, asking our fans to display a flag that we should all be proud of. I mean, everybody should be proud of the American flag. We're going to introduce 3 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients in pre-race. We'll introduce them at the drivers' meeting. And when you listen to their stories about what they've done, their heroic acts of bravery to protect the freedoms that we enjoy, after you hear those stories, I would hope that every single person in these grandstands, every single person in our infield would wrap themselves in the American flag. Because those are the freedoms that we enjoy. So, but again, we hope that our fans agree with us on that, and hopefully we're waving that flag very proudly. And candidly, as I went through the infield this morning, I believe I noticed a lot more American flags here than I noticed last year.
We'll wrap things up with Bob. Oh, we'll get you in, Jenna.
Just to add to Mark's question about feet, if you know how much total safer barrier you have here and how much to go.
We'll pull that. We'll do a scrum right after, and I can address that. I've got those numbers.
And we'll go to Jenna.
Jennifer, AP. Joey, has there been, this race is typically a Saturday night race. One, has there been any decline in attendance or ticket sales because it is now a Sunday night race? And are you concerned at all with that World Cup final on Sunday night?
Well, obviously it's a patriotic weekend, and rooting on the Women's World Cup soccer team, if you didn't root them on, I think that would be unpatriotic. So obviously, I think there'll be a number of our fans tuning into that. But at the end of the day, when we made this decision, understanding NBC was coming back in after 10 years, the success they've seen with their Sunday Night Football program, the number one rated program on TV, it made sense to work with them in this inaugural year coming back to do that. Sometimes the breaks don't go your way. And I'm not going to root against the Women's World Cup soccer team. When I realized it was going to be the same night, aw shucks, okay. But competition is good. You're going to have your core NASCAR fan, people that support us and watch us. But I have a feeling they will attract a fairly significant crowd on Sunday night, and they should. That's very special for our country. And obviously, we hope that they bring it home.
Anything further? Joey, thank you very much.